How do I procure a government contract?
Find the open solicitation and then read through it specifically for the scope of work and then how to submit a bid. And you just submit the bid according to the directions. That's the very briefest overview.
Hello world, it's your host, Data Mining Mike, and on today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be interviewing Ernesto Perez. Ernesto is a government procurement officer as well as aware of many hats in the Department of Enterprise Services. Therefore, Ernesto evaluates contracts as part of the bidding process. This is a very valuable podcast because he's going to help you navigate and demystify the world of government contracts. We cover great, amazing tips about government contract selection, and this is something you're going to want to watch all the way to the end. But first, AI news. Colorado is the first state in the union that signed legislation that broadens the Privacy Act definition of sensitive data to include biological and neural data generated by the brain, spinal cord, or the nervous system. And thank you for coming on the podcast today, everybody. We have Ernesto with the Department of Enterprise Services, and he's here to give us a demonstration and showcase what they're all about and how they can work for you. So I'll let him take the lead now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Like you mentioned, my name is Ernesto Perez. I'm with the Department of Enterprise Services, specifically the Procurement, Inclusion, and Equity Program, or PI for short. Wanted a catchy name, and hey, PI is catchy. I guess to kind of go into a whole overview to your question of how do you bid on a government contract, I gave you the summary, so now let's go into a bit more detail. Before that, just some background, because I'm sure most, if not all of you, have probably never heard of the Department of Enterprise Services. So I'll talk about who we are and what we do. Department of Enterprise Services is the state of Washington's lead procurement agency. What this means is that we centralize the business aspect of government where possible, so that way other agencies can focus their resources on the missions. So, for example, a fleet of vehicles. Rather than each individual agency having their own fleet of cars, state cars that they manage and then have to do repairs for, we manage the fleet vehicle, or the state's fleet of state cars. So that way, if an agency needs a state car, they'll just come to our agency, and then we'll just they'll just check one out from my agency. Same thing with surplus. So if an agency needs to get rid of their furniture, they'll just send it to us. We will sell it through our surplus and then give them the proceeds. So that way they don't have to focus their resources on doing that. They let us do it, and then they can use those resources on their mission. Amongst this is procurement. And so we are the lead procurement agency, meaning we get to set rules for agencies to, well, not all agencies, most agencies, specifically the executive branch agencies, to follow. And then one of them is the supplier diversity policy, which just went into effect last April 1st. That's why I came on board. My main job function is seeing that and supporting agencies in implementing that policy successfully, which is essentially just incorporating behaviors in their solicitations, so that way they are removing barriers that have traditionally prevented small businesses from bidding on state contracts. So yes, there is a great effort with the state of Washington to buy specifically from Washington State's small businesses, small and local businesses. So we want to invest in our local communities in that way. So that's a bit about DES. And then so for some more background information, how does the state of Washington buy? Primarily, I would say the most common is one of three ways. There's direct buy, which is pretty much when an agency just needs to do a quick purchase, usually with their P card or credit card. As long as it's under the direct buy limit, which for us as of right now, April 2024, it is $30,000 if they are buying from a large business, or in our efforts to promote small business purchasing, if they are buying from a small business, they can purchase up to $40,000 with the direct buy limit. That's only for Washington small and veteran-owned businesses, though. Direct buys also do not require a competitive process, so they'll usually just go out to vendors directly, get a couple of quotes, and then choose the one that's best for them. And because there's no competitive process, there is no posting in Washington's electronic business solution, or web. I'll talk about that later. Another way to buy that the state buys is agency contracts. Agency contracts are for purchases that are over the direct buy limit. So $30,000 if purchasing from large businesses, or $40,000 if purchasing from Washington small or veteran-owned businesses. And they must be procured through a competitive process. For that means that it needs to be posted in webs. And so if you want to compete for a state contract in Washington state, you must be registered in Washington's Electronic Business Solutions, or webs. That's where all agencies post it. So that's nice. It's one portal for all agencies rather than looking through individual agency portals. And then the third option is statewide contracts. So statewide contracts, just to kind of supplement what you mentioned on your blog post about the cooperative, the statewide contracts are like a local cooperative contract. We do have a couple of national cooperative contracts. However, in our efforts to buy more from Washington small businesses, we are moving away from the national cooperatives where possible and moving towards our own statewide contracts. So statewide contracts are kind of like I like to describe them as a combination of direct buy and agency contract, because as a contract, they are competitively procured. We put a solicitation for them in webs, and we do that whole competitive process, award usually multiple awardees for statewide contracts. And then because you've already done the competitive process, then you're on the statewide contract, and that way agencies look to the contract, find you on that contract, and then they'll just contact you probably for like quotes, again, in that aspect, direct buy. However, there's no additional competitive process because you've already done that. So whether it's over the direct buy limit, they just purchase from you directly through that statewide contract. So they're cooperative in the fact that all state agencies must use them, I should say. Not all state agencies must use them if their purchase needs can be satisfied from them, meaning statewide contracts is the first place agencies look to for purchases, which is why if you can get a statewide contract, then that is your best option for getting government work, state government work, I should say. So like you mentioned, what are the odds of winning a government contract? A lot higher if you're on a cooperative, definitely a lot higher if you're on a statewide contract. So yeah, definitely want to look for statewide contracting opportunities for those. And then, and then the other thing about statewide contracts is that they're not just state agencies that are able to purchase from them. They have to look for them first. However, local government entities and even federal government entities can also sign up to be statewide contract users, meaning if you're on a statewide contract, you can market to your local city. Like, for example, city of Spokane. We know that they have a fleet of vehicles, and I know we just did a statewide contract for vehicle maintenance. And so if we get any local Spokane businesses on that contract, then I can pitch it to the city of Spokane. Hey, we have a local vehicle maintenance repair shop that is on this contract that you can use if you sign a user agreement. So not just state government work, but local government work can also be a good way to get with statewide contracts. And so, that's kind of the quick overview of how to do a contract. I can probably go into a lot more, but I also want to talk a bit about where to find opportunities, as well as how do I know if the state is buying what I'm selling, because we might want to do statewide contracting, but there might just not be any opportunities. And so for that, we do have the Washington Open Checkbook, and this is online, so you can access it just by going to fiscal.wa.gov. And this is a great resource where we essentially post the spending for state agencies to the businesses that they buy from. So the best way to use it, even though there are filters for goods and services, they're very broad and generic, and I don't think that's the best way to use it. Yeah. So my recommendation is look for competitors or your own business. So look for business names. And from my knowledge, Most businesses include some word of the good and or service that they use in their business name.
Okay.
So just search for businesses with, for example, janitorial in their name. And then you can just select all of those businesses with janitorial in their name, and you will see all the agencies that have spent from them, which can be a good way of seeing what agencies are buying from your competitors, meaning what agencies are potential customers of yours, and that's where you should direct your efforts. So the Open Checkbook is a great resource for that, which I can also share and do some demos on that later if we have time.
Okay.
So I've talked a bit about WEBS. I will want to give a little bit more information on that. Once again, WEBS is the Washington Electronic Business Solutions. That is where all state agencies post their competitive solicitation opportunities. And so when you register in WEBS, you'll want to be sure that you select the commodity codes that are related to your business. So that way, whenever there is a solicitation posted from any agency in the state of Washington that includes a commodity code that you chose with your business profile there, you'll get an email notification that says, hey, this agency has posted this opportunity that you might be interested in. So that is one way to also be in the know. So that way you know where all opportunities are for your business to buy from state agencies. And then WEBS is also where state agencies look to for smaller direct buy purchases as well. So even if after looking in the Open Checkbook, you notice that maybe there's an agency that buys less than 40,000, let's say, or 30,000, then it might not be competitive. However, for those smaller purchases, they're still going to look to WEBS. And so just being in WEBS is being on the radar, being on the roster that state agencies look for businesses to purchase from, both competitive and non-competitive. And WEBS registration just takes about 10 minutes, I would say. All you need is your business name, your business tax ID number, and your contact information. Oh, and for contact, I usually recommend using a generic business email like info@businessname.com. The reason for that is just so that way it's not one person that only has access to that, so that way you don't miss notifications. Let's say that one person goes on vacation or is just not available. You still want to have access to that email getting the WEBS notification. So that's just my pro tip. If you register in WEBS, try to use a generic info business email if you have that. And then once you're in WEBS, you can also be visible to state buyers by getting certified with the Office of Minority and Women's Business Enterprises, or OMWBE. Their database of certified businesses communicates directly with WEBS. So that way, just by getting certified with them, once you're certified, then it'll automatically feed that information to WEBS. So for state purchasers, when they look you up in WEBS, they'll also see that you have OMWBE certification. And there is a drive for state agencies to purchase more from OMWBE certified businesses in relation to our efforts to want to spend more with socially disadvantaged businesses. So becoming certified with OMWBE will boost your visibility to state buyers greatly. And now is a great time to get certified because their certification fees are waived through June of 2025. So it is no cost to get certified between now and June of 2025. And then for certifying with OMWBE, then for state purchasing, you'll really want to focus on getting state certified. They also do federal certification, which is great if you want to do any federal work. However, if you're just focusing on state work for now and just want to be visible to state buyers, really any one of the state certifications will get you visible. And those include minority business enterprise, minority women business enterprise, women business enterprise, combination business enterprise, meaning more than one person, maybe a minority, maybe a woman, maybe a minority woman, so combination, or socially and economically disadvantaged business enterprise. So even though the certification is like minority and women's own, not necessarily have to be those, as long as you are socially and economically disadvantaged and have a way to prove that, like usually in the form of a narrative, then you can qualify for OMWBE certification.
Okay. Sweet.
And so talked about visibility. Now let's go to where to find contract opportunities. I really like my website. Granted, yes, I admit, because I'm part of DES, of course, I have that bias. However, des.wa.gov, if you go to sell to the state, which should be at the top there, and then bid opportunities from the drop down, then there should be a section that says contracts available for bidding. And amongst that, there are three opportunities that I really want, or links, I should say, that I want to focus. So there's webs bid opportunities, so that way you can get to webs and see those opportunities in webs. Statewide contracts, that will take you to our webpage where you can find the active statewide contracts, where you can see the original solicitation documents and the winning bid examples. So all of the businesses on the statewide contract that were awarded, you can see their bids, which is really useful because if you're like me, it's hard to create something from scratch. It's nice to have a reference point, something that you can draw from. And we have winning bids on that, so you can see and kind of get an idea for what a winning bid looks like, and then draw inspiration to help you craft your own bid for the future. And for statewide contracts, they also have the termination date, so you can see when it's up for rebidding, and that way you have that time to prepare for when it goes for rebidding so that way you can get on the statewide contract for next time. And usually statewide contracts are open for rebid, I believe, every 3 to 5 years. So not frequent, but also not too long. So it's like a nice balance, we think. So that way, you can still, if you have that contract, you can at least have it for a couple of years. And then the other link that I wanted to mention is current and future bid opportunities. So that link will take you to our planned procurement page where you can see the statewide contracts that we are working on and plan on posting within the next 12 months. So what I love about that is rather than just learn of an opportunity right when it's posted and have about 1 or 2 months to prepare a bid from scratch, you can check the planned procurements. You can see that a bid is posted, let's say, for 3 months from now. So that gives you 3 months to prepare, maybe go into webs or statewide contract and find the other bid solicitation examples and winning bid examples so you can have that reference. And that way, once it's posted, then it's just a matter of finalizing, cleaning up the final touches on your bid proposal. So that way you can just have a strong bid ready. So the planned procurement page, I think, is a great resource as well. And then the other thing too, one resource that my program within DES, the PI program, Procurement, Inclusion, and Equity, offers is that we have a State Contracts Assistance Network, or SCAN for short. So what this is a network of over 30 organizations in the state of Washington that we partner with to support small businesses and become state contractors. And so the two biggest ones I would say that we partner with that can likely provide the best help is Tabor 100. They're based in Tukwila, Washington. However, you can submit their inquiry form on their website, and then they can set you up with an advisor and do virtual meetings. So it's not just West Side. They can help you on East Side too. And then Apex Accelerator, formerly PTAC. They just recently changed their name to Apex. They are national, but the Washington branch is really good. So we partner with the Washington branch of Apex Accelerator, and they have offices throughout Washington. So our local Apex Accelerator here in Spokane, I believe, is within Greater Spokane Inc. in downtown. You can just go to, I believe it's WashingtonApex.org. Just Google Washington Apex, and that should take you to their website. And then you can make an appointment to meet with an accelerator. So those are just two big ones from our SCAN network. But like I said, it's an organization of over 30, it's a network of over 30 organizations within Washington State that support small businesses. And we partner with them to help you where you're at, whether you need help registering in webs, whether you need help getting certified with OMWBE, whether you need help preparing a bid, or now you've gotten a bid, how do you need help managing the work or growing your business in those aspects. So yeah, you don't have to go at it alone. I know that state contracting is a lot to go through, mainly because there's a lot of rules and regulations, but we do want to spend more with Washington small business, and we are really trying to make that as easy as possible. So when you are preparing your bids and looking for solicitations, one big advice that I want to make sure people know about is to use the complaint and debrief specifically. Complaint, I don't like the name. That's just what it's called in the solicitation. But it essentially means if you see anything in a solicitation that is preventing you from bidding, whether it's like a requirement or anything like that, then you can submit a complaint, just complaining about that part of it. And at least for statewide contracts, I can't speak for all agency contracts, but the statewide contracts team at DES, they really try to make that effort to remove those barriers whenever they do receive complaints about that. So yes, use complaints. The earlier the better. It's a lot easier to change a solicitation with time rather than changing it 5 days before the bids are due. So read it early. If you find any barriers, let us know. And then debriefs. Even if you win a contract, request a debrief. Debriefs are available after the apparent successful winners are announced. And a debrief is essentially meeting with the contract coordinator and going over your bid. What was great about it? Where could it have been improved? It's just your constructive feedback. So that way you have that knowledge for next time to create a stronger bid. So there's really no loss in requesting a debrief. Definitely, if nothing else, request a debrief because that will only help you with future bids. And that's kind of what I have for the quick overview of government contracting and how to get onto state contracting. That's all for me.
Okay, that's great. That was a lot of amazing information.
Yes. Oh, that is a good point. It is a lot of information. And I do also want to point out that my team, the PI program, we do essentially what I just told you about every third Thursday. So if you just go to des.wa.gov and search for State Contracting Open House, we do the same thing every third Thursday of the month virtually. So that way you can attend as much or as little. Like you said, it's a lot of information, a lot to digest. Sometimes you need to hear it again, and we give that monthly so you can hear it again as much as you want.
Good. That's good. I'll just re-listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that too. You can also re-listen to the podcast now that it's here.
And be sure to
Why wait till the third Thursday?
Exactly. So why don't you go ahead and show everybody what you wanted to show on your screen?
Oh, yeah, of course. So let's start with the open checkbook. So fiscal.wa.gov. Go back to the home here. And so once you're on the fiscal page, I should say, you'll just go up to state spend and then click on the payments by state agencies, open checkbook. And then you'll just choose the biennium. So right now we're looking at the current biennium from 2023 to 2025. Since we're still in that biennium, I'll just go to 2021 to 2023. And then category, like I mentioned, the category is very generic, just goods and services, so not very useful at all. Recipient is where you'll choose your drop down. So, Michael, give me a category.
Data analytics.
Data analytics, I like it. So let's look for data. Let's just start analytics. All right, well, one business came up with data analytics in their name. Let's just choose them for now. And you can see Capitalized Data Analytics, LLC. It looks like they received $5,689 from the Joint Legislative Systems. I just see a C. I'm guessing that's commission. I don't know it off the top of my head. It's likely a smaller agency. But yeah, that's where you can see that. And then if we just do data, I see a lot more businesses with that. So just for this example, I'll search more businesses, probably not all because this is a lot. And I know if you're actually reading the names, you're probably like, no, these are completely different things. But I admit I know nothing about data. And so at least for those top data businesses with data in their name, looks like Fish and Wildlife has spent the most in 2021 to 2023 to Bridge Data Solutions, public schools. So that's the Office of the Superintendent, I believe, also spent a lot. And sorry, I should specify that Fish and Wildlife didn't specify with Bridge Data. Bridge Data is just the one that received the most funds. So if I click on them, that'll actually show me that Consolidated Technology Services was the agency that purchased most from them. And then Fish and Wildlife looks like they actually purchased most from Comdata Network, Inc. And so this could be a cool way just to see which agencies are spending with businesses, so that way you can see, hey, these agencies are spending with my competitors, so I can reach out to them because I know that they're buying what my business offers. So yeah, that is the Washington Open Checkbook. And now let's go to des.wa.gov, and I'll show the contracts and planned procurements page. So we'll go to sell to the state, bid opportunities, and then webs first. Just really quickly, register as a vendor in webs. That'll take you to this great page about webs tips, getting registered in webs, help for small, diverse, and veteran businesses. And then register in webs will take you to the webs website, which is what it looks like. So now we'll go back to bid opportunities, statewide contracts. And then on this page, you can see the statewide contracts that are active. You can also see that they are OMWBE certified and small and or veteran owned. So if you are certified, specifically, I think OMWBE is the top filter, and then small business, and then veteran. So if you are OMWBE certified, you are jumped to the top of the list. As we scroll down, you'll notice that there's no more OMWBE. So if there's a statewide contract with OMWBE certification, and this is any category, as long as you're state certified with OMWBE, then your contract will be pushed up to the top. And then beyond that, being self-certified as a small business in webs will get you that little icon for small business, which will be the next filter. And then maybe it's not this one here, but this icon for veteran, that will also, you'll get that if you become certified with the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs as a veteran-owned business. And their system also communicates automatically with webs. So just get certified with them and you're already updated in your webs profile. And as you've probably guessed, the statewide contract page pulls its data from webs. And so that way, once you get on a statewide contract, you don't need to do any additional submissions of being OMWBE certified. I'm a small business. As long as they're good in webs, we've got that information. So trying to make it as easy for businesses as possible to become visible. So we'll just choose this business consulting services. Oh yeah, before we do that, there's a termination date. I believe this one's just a new one that we just completed last year. So this one is set to expire in 2028, which gives you a couple of years to do your research and prepare for the next rebid. So if we click on it and scroll down, then you'll see the list of businesses here. Again, if they're OMWBE certified, they are filtered to the top, as well as small business and the veteran-owned status. And then here's where I mentioned you can see the winning bids. Under historical documents, you'll click on that, and you can see the winning bids from any business. Select it, open selected documents, and you've got that as a cool reference. So that way you can just take a look at that. Which I guess is one thing to consider too. The reason that we are able to do this is because bids do become public record after a parent successful bidder is announced. So just one thing to keep in mind, if you do submit a bid, it does become public record after the apparent successful bidder is announced. The reason for that though is for transparency. We want you to be able to see the documents, everything. And we also want you to have access to these winning bids as examples because, like I said, I like having examples, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So just something to keep in mind about your bids if you do want to get into state contracting. And so that's the state contracts page. The last one we'll do is current and future bid opportunities for the planned procurements. It looks, in terms of layout, it looks very similar to the active statewide contracts one with a couple of differences. You can see the contract title for what's coming up. The notes is a really cool section because this will tell you where they're at in the process. These are just updates, pretty frequent updates. Like, for example, this armored car and courier services. That one, the most up-to-date note is from 6 days ago, at least as of today. It's so April 11th, last Q&A posted to webs. And so it seems like this one's already posted. And then we can hit the project schedule and see, yes, so we are currently posted. Bids are due, looks like, on April 29th. And so we can also, let me see if I can find one that's coming up. I believe equipment rental is coming up. There we go. Nope, that one's active. HV parts. Nope, that one was just posted here. But you kind of see what I mean. There's the schedule. Here we go. Fruits and vegetables. So that one, we are still in the strategic planning. We are expecting to post the solicitation in May. So that way you have that heads up. And this was probably on this page up until months ago because we try to post solicitations about 12 months before they are posted. So planned procurement is a great resource. If you click on a contract, then there is a direct link to if it is replacing an existing statewide contract. So that way it's just an easy access to that current statewide contract. And then you can find the solicitation documents and winning bids or bid tabs if you want to see those. And those are the three key websites that I wanted to make sure people had some guidance on.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Cool. So tell the world about you, Ernesto. How did you get started in DES?
All right. So about me, let's see. I am originally from San Francisco. So born in San Francisco and then moved to the East Bay, but still in the area when I was, I think, 7 years old. So I grew up there. And then San Francisco was great, although just being there my whole life, and then most of my family was in the area, so I never really got to travel much beyond visiting family in Mexico. So even though I loved it, I still wanted that experience to explore new and not just be in the same place my whole life. So I kind of decided that I wanted to leave San Francisco and move somewhere else for my undergrad, so after I would graduate from high school. And I knew I wanted to stay West Coast because West Coast, best coast. And then I really like Washington. I really like cold weather, so I wanted to go somewhere where it snowed ideally. And then so Washington, my choices were mainly Seattle or Spokane. Seattle seemed very similar to San Francisco. I was hoping to get away from the big city traffic and crowds, so settle on Spokane. And then I moved here in 2019 and it's been great. So I love it. I started here at STCU just to get started. That was a great experience. I love that STCU was really about the member experience and working there, I can definitely vouch for that was true. And then I just had that interest for wanting to do good. So I knew I wanted to be in not the private sector. There's probably a better term. So my background, my education is in museum studies. So before I left San Francisco, I was working at the Walt Disney Family Museum there.
Oh, cool.
While I was doing my master's in museum studies. And I just really liked that idea of educating people in an informal environment where they don't have to worry about curriculums or tests or studying. They can just go to a museum that they're interested in and learn at their own pace about things that they are interested in. And I thought that was really cool. And so, that's my background. Kind of wanted to get back into that kind of nonprofit public service area. So I was looking at some museums and even state and city jobs. And then I found this posting for DES about the Supplier Diversity Policy Program Manager. And I went for it. And that's how I kind of got here. And it's really I've been able to apply my background. Like my museum background is. Oh yeah.
Just bring it closer.
Oh, closer. Sorry.
There you go.
You can always edit this out afterwards, right? Yeah, my museum background has been useful, I think, greatly in this role because it is about educating state agencies. Like my main duty is working with the state agencies that the policy applies to, which is over 100 agencies. I think it's 104, and making sure that they have the knowledge and support to implement this policy. Because like I said, we don't want to punish, we want to support agencies. And so that's kind of what we're after, and that's the mindset that I'm taking, support rather than enforce. We'll enforce if we need to, but we don't want to jump straight to enforcement. We want to give them that chance to do good because we want to do good. It's just hard, and we need to make sure that it works for everyone. Yeah, so that's been great, using my background in museum studies to take kind of complex ideas and then explain it in a way that makes sense to people as well. So not just with agencies, but also my work, especially here in Eastern Washington, since I'm in Spokane. And most of this outreach work before me has been on West Side because that's where Olympia is and all the businesses are and most of the offices. So I'm excited. I've really enjoyed being here in Spokane and really trying to make that mark that, hey, Eastern Washington is Washington too. There are state agencies with offices here. We want to support Eastern Washington, not just Western Washington. So that's been great.
That's good. That's a great mission statement.
Yes.
So how often do you drive to Olympia?
Luckily not too often. Definitely a couple of times a year. I was just there last April for 4 back-to-back events within 2 weeks. So that was an exhausting 2 weeks in Olympia. But luckily, I am not expected back to Olympia until, I think, August. So I would say probably 2 to 3 times per year is when I go to Olympia. Usually once in spring, maybe twice or maybe once in summer and maybe once in fall, but not too often. Most of my outreach events, I try to focus to be here in the area.
Okay, cool. So talk a little bit about a day in the life of what you do, the hats you wear.
All right. So day in the life, let's see. Contrary to most people, I would say, I think Mondays are probably my favorite days, the start of the week. That's where everyone dreads it. The reason for that is those are like the one days where that is usually the one day where I don't have meetings scheduled, probably because everyone is catching up from the weekend work or finishing up projects. But Mondays are just when I am looking through webs and reading solicitations. So that's where I'm doing kind of like the core aspect of my job of the supplier diversity policy. I spend my Mondays, usually just me, pretty calm, looking through webs, reading through agency solicitations, and looking for either great examples of the supplier diversity policy wordings in there that I can then share with other agencies in our community of practice, which I'll talk about a little later. And then also looking for maybe trends. Is there a particular part of the policy that maybe agencies are having trouble implementing because I'm not seeing it in as many like that there. So I'm not really looking through the agency solicitations as a means of enforcement. I'm more looking at it for kudos, recognizing excellent work. I want to give shout out to Healthcare Authority because one of their solicitations I read, I found their interested subcontractor list, which I thought was a great idea. And then I shared it with our community of practice and everyone loved it. So hopefully we can get more interested subcontractor lists and things like that, because this is still new work and it's challenging and we're all kind of still learning and figuring it out how we go. So sharing successes so that way they can get the credit that they deserve, but then also looking for opportunities where maybe there could be some assistance, not discipline, assistance before discipline. And then we can work from there. So that's Mondays. Mondays is usually just me sifting through webs, reading solicitations, I think my record for most solicitations read in one day is like 22. And if you've seen solicitations, they're like 20 plus pages. So that was a lot of skimming and reading. But hey, it works and it's fine. Tuesdays through Thursdays are mostly meeting days because that's when most people are active in there. So, for example, today I had a meeting for webs report or webs enhancement. So we're always trying to make webs better for both businesses and state users. Meeting with contracting specialists and just making sure what their efforts are going. Tomorrow on Thursday, since it's the third Thursday, that's when I usually host the Community of Practice, the Supplier Diversity Community of Practice, which is a community of, it originally started as just a group of DES procurement professionals, and then we eventually grew it to state agency procurement professionals. And now, as of July of last year, so just as I came on board, it was open to everyone. So anyone who does public procurement, whether cities, other states, counties, towns, they're welcome to come. And we just talk about our supplier diversity efforts. Like, what are we doing that works? What challenges are we having? Professional development, things like that. So really just trying to create this community where people feel safe and comfortable sharing challenges, as well as tooting their own horn when necessary, because we want to celebrate you if you do great work. And that's where I kind of give the kudos to Healthcare Authority for their interested subcontractor list. And yeah, so that's usually most of my time is also planning for that. Now that I've kind of took on, I used to co-facilitate that with my supervisor, but now she's kind of given me more reins now that I've been in my position for a year. She feels I'm ready, so hopefully I'm ready. Hopefully I've been doing a good job with that. We'll see. No one's come at me just yet saying the meetings are terrible, so I guess that's a good sign. Yeah, and then at least this season too, with spring and in the summer, it's also a lot of outreach events. So just last Tuesday, I did a workshop here in Spokane talking about pretty much what I talked about here on your podcast, how to get involved with the state. Next week, I'm having a series of workshops going over 2 specific solicitations that are currently open: graffiti removal services and paint supplies and painting services. So just workshops where we will go through the solicitations, which, like I mentioned, are like 20 plus pages, very intimidating. So I'll be there to kind of go through, make sense of the words and the clauses. What parts do you actually have to read? What parts can you just skim and not really pay attention to, because a lot of them are copy pasted really anyways. So yeah, just really trying to, again, make state contracting less of a mystery. So that way people can become state contractors. So I'd say that's kind of a lot of what I do throughout the week. Typical day varies between reading solicitations, meeting with agencies, planning for the community of practice, so that way we can make sure we have conversations that are productive and ongoing, and then supporting my team with our outreach efforts, specifically here in Eastern Washington.
That's pretty cool. You got a lot on your plate.
Oh, yeah.
And what's surprising to me, like I told you before, is how you're not just overwhelmed with phone calls, because that's how much of a mystery the government contracting is. Because it took me finding that data set on IT contracts to mine through to figure out the odds of and learning everything about the cooperative purchases to open my eyes and lead me down this path to where I found you. And this is it's cool. So and it made me think about, like, okay, all that stimulus money that people talk about, this is where it's going. And you got to know how to access it, and it's not that hard to access. It's just that there's information, and if you don't know how to ask the right questions or don't have those questions planted in your mind to ask, you're never going to ask them. So I was thinking, like, so you're doing virtual groups every Thursday.
Yes, every third Thursday.
What if you did live groups?
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. It's definitely crossed my mind for now, because we actually had our first hybrid meeting for the community practice, and they were live before COVID. It just went virtual like everything did during COVID. But for March's meeting last month, we did have an in-person aspect in addition to the virtual. It was a small turnout, but it was still a good turnout. I think we still had fun for those that did turn out. But yes, I do, because I'm really focusing on that word community, because we are a community of people who support supplier diversity, people who are really passionate about making sure that state spending does go to Washington small businesses. And it's just a matter of building that community, which as an introvert, I understand, because I am very familiar with going to a meeting and then they're like, hey, let's talk about things, and no one wants to talk. So just trying to create that comfort virtually, and even in person now too. So I'm hoping that next year we can have another in-person meeting. Maybe eventually they'll be more often, but for now we're going to slowly start with the once a year, possibly, in-person meeting, which, fun fact, is on Pi Day, March 14th, 314.
Yep.
And that is intentional because, like I mentioned, my program is Pi, Procurement, Inclusion, and
Yep.
Equity. So it makes sense that we have it on Pi Day.
Good one.
The unofficial name is PyCon. That's what me and my
PyCon.
team call it behind the scenes.
Nice.
Yes.
PyCon. I like that. Good. As you're talking, I'm thinking several things. So I believe the networking, in-person networking scene is just massive now since post-COVID. And just being consistent. I think it's about the place you choose. So I think about this often because I've thought about starting up my own group. Takes dedication, like a once a month thing, but I could probably handle once a month thing. So I'm thinking about this too, like where I want a place that's cool. And like, how would you name the group? So I'm thinking the Spokane government contracting group or contracting network.
Maybe.
And you put that on Eventbrite, and you guys could even make a page, an additional web page on DES to promote that, so that way it'll populate on Google.
Gotcha. So kind of like a subgroup. Oh, no, not a subgroup. No, I think I see what you mean. I just need to, I love that idea. It's like, I'm going to stick with it because I would love that if we could just have a local in-person networking group, because we are trying to do something similar to that with SCAN. Since we have over 30 organizations across the state, we do want to try to focus some segments of SCAN for, like, for example, K-SCAN, Korean SCAN, to focus on the Korean community, and then L-SCAN for Latino community. I've been one of those helping out with that, but I've been so busy with other stuff I haven't had a chance to work on that. But that's kind of how I see something similar to that, only rather than being with organizations that no, actually I think that's kind of what K-SCAN is. It's business owners as well as the organizations that support. It's still fairly new, so I'm still trying to understand that, but something like that here in Spokane, where it's just businesses and business organizations that support state contracting. I like that idea. I'm going to keep in mind.
With the Facebook page.
That
people are Discording on.
Or a Discord group.
Yes,
yep. Right?
I mean, I was going to bring up Discord, but that was kind of I think it's more of a nerdier thing. But
that's true. I don't know how it would fly with our
Discord
communications team, but hey, we got to get with the times. So
yeah, you could do both if you wanted. And I find it surprisingly effective because there's this one group that I go to that meets. There's a few groups that I go to that meet once a month, and the communication through Discord is decent as to when they're going to meet up and where. And it was a good time just to network and get together and talk about whatever the subject is. And you would be like the man, you'd be The shaman.
I don't know about that. I'd be the bard.
Yeah,
I'd just be.
yeah.
That's how I describe myself a lot. It's like if I were to describe myself in one word, I'm a bard. I support the party so that way they can really shine and succeed. So, yeah, I'll just be the bard that supports everyone so they can
The
get their
font
power
of
up.
knowledge.
Yes, that too.
Yeah, that would be cool. And so I think about like, so where would you do it? And I'm watching this with all these other groups and how they debate as to where should we hold this group. We're all consistently showing up because we want to show up and help each other out and network and mentor. The problem is the consistency and location. So if you can find a place that's in the one groups that I've noticed that are the thriving ones are the ones that are consistent on the day and consistent at the location and time. And so if you can, in a cool location too, one where it's not a hassle for parking.
Oh yeah, I second that too because I hate parking. One of the things that I look to if I'm going to a new place, Google Maps, where's the nearest parking? Where can I park? It's a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Downtown, I'd love to see downtown become a better place for networking events, but it's just a pain for parking. But what I think might be a cool, well, you definitely have to get the smell of coffee in there. But some people like the option of alcohol, but then again, some people complain like, well, some people are recovering alcoholics and they don't want to be around that. And I can understand that too. So you're going to have to find that happy medium of maybe a location that has the smell of coffee and the option for lubrication, social lubrication, you know.
For sure. And even the tea drinkers too. Don't want to forget the tea drinkers. So.
And the tea drinkers. Yeah.
And then I was going to say hot chocolate because that's usually my beverage of choice. But usually if coffee's on the menu, hot chocolate's on the menu. So
absolutely.
I think I'm covered.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a place where you support someone or some place like that, but keep it consistent. I think you'd totally get people there. I think you would attract a lot of really unique people because these groups, you'd be surprised because there's not many of them that are well advertised or consistent to attract the network of entrepreneurs and investors that want to go and look for other things too.
Yeah, I can see that. So definitely something to consider.
Yeah. So what do you do for fun?
I love to play video games. If I'm not working, I am probably playing on my computer on some Steam game. Lately, it's Enshrouded. I just got Enshrouded a couple of weeks ago, and that's been so fun. Before that, recently, Baldur's Gate 3. I really like RPGs. My all-time favorite RPG is Kingdom Hearts. I know it's confusing and makes no sense, but I just love it.
Yeah, it is confusing and makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I played it a lot when I was a teenager. It's been around a while. It's a long saga.
But it's also part of that confusingness, at least for me, that makes it so interesting. Like, yes, you've got the like Terra Xehanort who gets Riku, and then Riku becomes Ansem, and then Ansem is actually the Heartless of Xehanort, who's not really Xehanort. So yeah, totally easy like that.
Yeah.
What's not to follow along with that?
Yeah. It's kind of like all the typical Disney movies now with their inception of in and out of dimensions and stuff.
For sure. The multiverse. That's the theme that everything is a multiverse nowadays.
Yeah, the multiverse.
But yeah, I'm definitely a big gamer. I love playing video games, specifically role-playing games. I don't really do much co-op online. I'm up for it, but I also don't like to rely on other people to play games. I like one player too, and I can have fun with one player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So do you generally play on PC or do you have a specific console?
Generally PC. I do have a PlayStation 4. Of course, that's where I play my Kingdom Hearts. Although, honestly, most of my games are on PC. Just a couple on PlayStation 4.
Cool. So, have you been keeping up to date with the latest in the gaming world of who's who and
I would say kind of, but probably not to the extent of someone who's really in there. Mainly if it's a big game that people are talking about specifically through meme culture, because that's usually how I get my news, through memes. That's how I figure out what's going on in the world.
Isn't that the way it is?
It really is. Like memes, if it's a big enough event that there are memes about it, then yeah, it's worth knowing, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I found out about Baldur's Gate 3, because there were memes about it. People were excited about it. It's like, what is this? Enshrouded. I'm like, okay, I'll check this out. So
Yeah, I had buddies telling me about Baldur's Gate, and yeah, like it could get dark, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to play the Dark Urge character. I want to, but it hurts because I usually don't play as the Dark. I play as the hero.
You try to
but
be a
it's
good
like,
guy,
I
you
want
know?
to experience the Dark Urge story, but it hurts me as a player. I'm the kind of player who, if I am mean to an NPC, I will feel bad. So that's the kind of player I am.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah, same with me. Like when I played Grand Theft Auto, I didn't like beating up the hookers.
Right? Exactly. Or in Crazy Taxi, I mean, granted, Crazy Taxi, I like playing it, but every now and then, just to challenge myself, I actually played Crazy Taxi as the law-abiding taxi driver, stopping at stoplights. I think it was Crazy Taxi. It was one of those crazy driving games. But yeah, I remember sometimes as a kid, like, you know what? I'm going to play this game the right way. Right way. Well, it's the wrong way to play the game, but the right way in terms of real world. And then I got bored and then went back to the actual gameplay, but still.
Yeah. What's interesting is the demographic of gamers has shifted dramatically to middle-aged women.
Has it really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I did not know
They
that.
love their Bejeweled. That's all they do is sit and play Bejeweled. Like,
all right.
To include my mom, she'll sit and play Bejeweled. This is kind of, it's been going for a while.
Oh, wow.
That more middle-aged women are outpacing kids.
Well, that's cool, though, because it just goes to show that video games can be enjoyed by any and by all. And there are games for everyone, like whether it's puzzle games, RPGs. I'm not a big fan of the first-person shooters, but I know that they're big. Real-time strategy games are also really fun. Yeah, and mobile games, so there's a game for everyone. That's cool. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I like it. People like to have fun, and they like the escape.
Yes.
From reality.
Exactly. And I also, even though I feel like the general sense of this is going is it's okay to play games on easy mode, because you don't need to play games on super hard mode and stress yourself out.
Yeah,
It's okay to just play a game on easy mode and just enjoy it. You don't need to be competitive. You can be a casual gamer. So that's cool. I remember I used to feel guilty playing easy mode, but now I'm like, you know what? No, I play games just to enjoy myself. It's okay to play easy mode.
Absolutely. That's maturity.
Exactly. That's accepting that you've had a hard day and you don't want to be stressed at work or at games. You want to enjoy your game.
Exactly. I want to enjoy my game.
Yes.
And even playing online. Yeah, that's where it gets tough.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters, because they're so stressful and competitive. And it's like, I don't want competitive.
Yeah, they are. And they're always... Yeah, they're unique. But so what do you what are your favorite places around Spokane? So what have you explored and seen?
So that's a great question. I will admit I haven't explored as much as I would have liked to. Mainly just because when I moved here, it was a couple months before the pandemic hit. So it's like moved here in 2019, finally started kind of getting settled in 2020. And then I think it was early 2020 when the pandemic happened. But now that it's been lightening, I've been able to explore a little bit more. Some places that I like to go to, really downtown. I feel like anytime I get to go to downtown, just to see the falls, I really like just going and sitting by the falls for at least 30 minutes and just enjoying that. River Park Square, or just River Park in general, walking along the Centennial Trail. I have been able to travel a little bit more, of course, on my way to Olympia. So Olympia's pretty cool. I've been in Wenatchee and Tri-Cities is also nice. But yeah, Spokane is definitely the nice area. Granted, yes, I'm probably biased because I live here already, but yeah, it's a nice place, and I'm excited to try more places. And if you have any recommendations, I'm always open for it. But for now, I can just think River Park, uh, Riverfront. Sorry, River Park is the square. Riverfront is probably my favorite place here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's very nice. That's the heart of Spokane, and that's what I like about it is it's not big city traffic at all. It's not even like California traffic because I lived in Oceanside because when I was in the Marines, so because I know the California traffic.
Yeah, traffic. I'm from San Francisco, so I feel like my worst traffic story, and I always thought this was an exaggeration until I actually lived it. It took me I think it was 4 hours, definitely at least 2 hours. I'm pretty sure it was 4 hours just to go 2 blocks in downtown San Francisco during rush hour. I'm like, wow, it is really as bad as they say. 4 hours to go 2 blocks.
That's not even worth driving.
It's not. So yeah, that was my one and only time driving, because I'm pretty patient. Like usually traffic doesn't bother me, but so I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. It is that bad. So I was like, yep, not doing this.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, and what's nice about Spokane, because I got my dad lives in the Tri-Cities, and I was down there visiting, and every time I go down the Tri-Cities, it's a different feel, it's a different atmosphere. But we play the like what place is better game, Spokane or Tri-Cities, because Tri-Cities got a little bit nicer weather, but Spokane's got a lot more culture, I think. At a lot discounted price compared to just the cost of living, cost of driving, time, expenses.
For sure. No, I agree. Yeah, especially with Spokane nowadays too. It seems like there are a lot more. Well, granted, I haven't been here as long, so I can't speak as a native. But yeah, it does seem like there's a lot more shows coming locally, like at the Interstate Center or at the Fox or everything. It's like, wow, these are some pretty cool shows. Like I think I saw yesterday that an orchestra is coming, orchestra to play the soundtrack of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think they're coming over. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. I want to go to that. And then they've got Lilac City Comic Con coming in June. I want to go to that for the first time this year.
Good.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot here, which is, like you mentioned, very cultural here.
Yes, yeah. And so do you have any restaurant, like interesting cultural places that you've been to?
So far, I would say I really like Tacos del Sol on Division. One, because they have sopitos, which of course a lot of places actually here in Spokane have sopitos, which is very exciting because back in California, where there were a lot of Mexican restaurants, I never saw sopitos on the menu. And growing up, I love sopitos. My mom makes like homemade sopitos. That's my favorite food, the way that my mom makes it from Colima. And suddenly here in Spokane, they're everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. And then Tacos del Sol, though, what I love about their menu is they have huaraches, which I've yet to see in another menu besides Tacos del Sol. And that reminds me of my dad. My dad would make huaraches too. He still does every now and then, but not as much. And huaraches, it's essentially the Spanish word for sandal. So it's just kind of like a tostada tortilla base with the meat and the beans and the lettuce and cheese toppings. But it's just in a long oval shaped like a sandal. So that's why they're called huaraches. And theirs is really good. So far, I would say Tacos del Sol on Division is my favorite place.
Okay, Tacos del Sol. Yeah, what I can really appreciate is places that make chicken and mole. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that I even make it myself now.
Yeah, do you? How do you make it?
I just buy the Abuelo's chicken and mole sauce, and I just use, there's two ways. Sometimes you can do the bouillon with the bouillon water, and then I throw in like at least 2 scoops because I like it thick. But now I've trended away from the bouillon water. Now I'm just using orange juice.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I just put in orange juice and I heat it up and I just drop in two scoops of
That
mole.
sounds interesting. I kind of want to try that too. I've never actually made mole. My dad would make mole, but maybe now I can look it up the recipe and maybe even get yours, and then I'll try making it.
It's just the can. I just put it in orange. Here you go.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah, which is good. I ate recently at this Afghan restaurant off of, I think it's off Division. Yeah, it's off Division. No, maybe it's not Division. Maybe it was a Monroe. Or either way, it's called Enron. It starts with the ERAN. Or
okay.
Iran.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it either.
Imran. It's an Afghan restaurant. So I went there and it was a good time. It was a interesting time. So because I've been to Afghanistan, but I haven't been in any like Afghan restaurants and come back to the U.S. and eating the Afghan food. It was exactly how they prepared it there. And I asked for what they made there, which was sheep. So lamb in rice. So I ate that.
That's cool. No, that sounds good too. I need to try it. I don't think I've had Afghan food yet. I'd be curious to try it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great place to go and eat because you walk in and off to the side there is the traditional eating areas where it's just a rug on a platform. So you sit down on a rug and you eat.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so usually you order the bread and or d'ourde as they call it. The bread is like big pieces. Sometimes they're big pieces and sometimes they're smaller, and they just rip it off. So like Jesus said, I'm the bread of life. So they'd pass out the bread and they'd rip it, or you rip it and pass it out. And same thing with then. So they pass out the loaves of bread, and then you have your bread, and that's your utensil, literally. And
okay.
Yeah.
I think I was similar with Ethiopian, right? I think
that's
very also
similar.
how Queen of Sheba had it. It's like just eating it with their bread equipment. I don't know if it was actually bread, but yeah, that's always fun too. I think it's also similar to Mexican culture, where for us it's tortillas. We just eat tortillas with all of our food. So why waste utensils that you just have to clean when you can just eat straight with the food? So I'm all for that.
Yeah, well, it makes me think a lot about like our food culture and how it's shifted and how that is a thing in a lot of other cultures. Like, this is our dish. Here's the bread. It's the utensil. Let's use it. And yeah, I think it's fun. And definitely want to do that.
Yeah, I'll need to check that place out. I'll probably mispronounce it too. Aaron. I'll need to remember that.
Yeah. So, so anything else interesting coming up?
Let's see. For me, I'd say I've got the community of practice thing tomorrow, so we're going to try this new activity thing rather than just have speakers talk and you just listen as an attendee, because like I said, I really want to focus on community, not just making it a meeting you go to and don't participate in, and then you leave and you probably forget the information. So we'll see how that interactive activity goes. And then next week we've got a day of workshops for the solicitations, so I'm excited about that. I'm already tired thinking about it, but it's still good work, so I'm excited for it.
All right. Well, and that brings up a good point because we're running on time. So let's get to the last and final and very important question. Where can people find you?
All right. So for me, I would say best way to reach me is by email. So you can email me directly, which is Ernesto.Perez@des.wa.gov. ERNESTO.P like Paul EREZ@des.wa.gov, or just our team's email. That's the one I usually manage anyways. That's DESPieprogram@des.wa.gov. Either of those are probably the best way to reach me. I check those daily.
Cool. Well, I'll be sure to put the video, or be sure to check out the link to DES in the video description below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for more data-driven updates, and check it out. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Bye.
All right, bye.